We see increasingly protests sweeping across the country, from the We Stand With Mkhwanazi demonstrations in KwaZulu-Natal and Cape Town to Operation Ndudula's anti-illegal immigration marches. The country's constitutional right to protest is under the spotlight. But what happens when the right to protest clashes with the rights of others? We're joined by Omhle Ntshingila, the project coordinator at Right to Protest, and Thapelo Mohapi, the General Secretary of Abahlali baseMjondolo, to explore the role of protest in a constitutional democracy. To the pair of you, thank you very much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it. Thapelo, since there were developments yesterday in respect of your organization, I think we start with you. We saw the march by Operation Ndudula to SERI, which is the Socio-Economic Rights Institute. They accuse SERI of being unpatriotic for offering legal support to migrants. But your organization was there in support of SERI. It was just an interesting dynamic and optically to see groups that are representing the rights of people who often go unvoiced or unseen in our society, in a sense, standing off with each other. So I'd love to hear from your perspective why that happened and why you did it.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Iman. Good morning to the viewers. After a very controversial poster was released by Operation Ndudula, which attacked the civil society organizations in showing that they should be cancelled and they are unpatriotic and they are not for South Africans. We were there to defend democracy. We were there to defend humanity. We were there to say that our constitution must be defended against those who actually want to attack it. So we gathered peacefully outside with our posters that said that a human being is a human being wherever and whenever they find themselves. We're expressing ourselves, but also we were there to receive a memorandum, because we are SERI. We have had, many people have received houses. Are protected from unlawful evictions from SERI. SERI has protected has been taking government in terms of the Marikana massacre and so forth. So the unpatriotic in this particular case was irrelevant. So that's why we were there to be being peaceful to show that. But we were met with vulgar attacks, with people who were carrying shamboks, paper sprayed our people who were peacefully raising placards. Which is not the way that protests should go. So we were very disappointed with how the Ndudula people conducted themselves on the day.
And we'll come back to this in terms of how you build consensus, or whether it's even possible to do that amongst disparate protest groups. Omhle, let me bring you in. The Constitution guarantees the right to protest. We've seen, and based on what Thapelo is talking to us, protests where intimidation, misinformation, and even violence are involved. How do you see the Constitution and its guardrails prescribing how protests should unfold in South Africa to prevent things and incidents like that from happening?
Thank you for that question, Iman. Our constitution protects everyone's right to protest. Everyone has a right to show dissent, but I think what we should be looking at is what leads people to get to misconduct. And often, one, it's out of misunderstanding, two, it's out of misinformation, as you said, and three, it's also out of frustration. People in South Africa, all who live under the constitution, have the right to protest, be you an asylum seeker, a refugee, be you an informal trader, be you an aggrieved citizen. Your rights to protest are protected, and the right to protest of others are also protected. I think there is an assumption that because I'm a South African citizen, I have the right to protest over other people in the country, and that is not true. But I think this is why organizations like ourselves exist, to continue doing that civic education, educating people around the right to protest, but ensuring that people also understand that others in their country also have the right to protest and show their dissent amongst many issues and challenges that are affecting everyone.
Well, let's talk about the misinformation that you have referenced. Thapelo, how do you believe organizations like Operation Ndudula and March on March are misinformed?
I think for one, this notion of not quoting the Constitution well, that everyone has a right to access basic health care. This is a fundamental right. And of course, when you ask for ID or proof of documentation for residents, for migrants, that is, of course, should be done by police. And if people like Operation Dudula and March for March block people from getting to hospitals and so forth and clinics and asking for them to produce some form of documentation that they are here legally, it's actually infringing on their rights. So when you protest, you must ensure that you do not infringe on other people's rights. And also in this particular case, denying people the basic rights that's accessing to basic health care where people can lose their lives. And of course, the right to life is also being infringed on this particular case.
Omhle, your thoughts on that?
I think what Thapelo is raising is very important. Often when we do our political education as the right to protest, we always emphasize around places where not to protest and what not to do, because the right of life is extremely important. So when communities block ambulances, for instances, that causes a threat to another person's life. So things like hospitals remain sacred. Because here we are dealing not only just with, an injustice of basic healthcare services for people not to access those, but you are literally also committing a crime in the sense of what if that person dies, you've contributed to a loss of life. So we try to always encourage protesters to refrain from blocking people from accessing basic services, especially when it comes to health, and also just relating it to the same of when a police officer is brutalizing people, they are also participating in taking away the right to life. And we don't want to turn into the perpetrators as protesters. So it's very important to understand what blocking healthcare services actually does to our communities.
Well, let's go back to the ground then, and I'm really interested to hear both your thoughts. And Thapelo, maybe we kick off with you. How then do you represent people who say every time we go to a hospital, we can't get seen, it's overcrowded. We want to get our medicines, but the dispensary has run out. Or, they can't get treated or seen. And these are, some of the issues. And we spent a lot of time with Operation Dudula and March on March yesterday mapping their various protests. And this is the overriding sentiment that we hear, that this is a sector of voices in our society that are not being heard. How would you then bearing in mind these principles that you're saying are sacrosanct, and represent communities who have that complaint?
Yes, no, thank you very much for that question, Iman. I think first and foremost, we believe that the issues that have been raised by Operation Dudula and March for March are relevant. South Africa is at a boiling point. We have the highest unemployment rates. We have a health system that is, I call it, vandalized. It's completely collapsed. I go to the rural areas sometimes where there are not many migrants, and I get served after 4 hours. So we believe that their anger is justified, but it is not directed to the right people. We have a hospital today where corruption took place. We know of it now. We have people who are whistleblowers who have lost their lives as a result of that. And we believe that their anger should be vested in the right direction. That's why we are reaching out. We spoke to the president of Dudula. We want to engage with them. This notion of, because remember, there are people who are out there who want to use the people's poverty, people's plight to actually advance their own interest. These are politicians who want to chase migrants away, and this is grasping some, attracting some of the people.
I'll pick up that theme with Omhle in just a moment. But who are you talking about? And again, pardon me. we are in an era in South Africa where we need to be extremely specific about what we're saying so that people understand exactly what we mean. So when you say there are political interests that are represented, in a shadowy way or behind the scenes, in the case of Operation Ndudula, who are you talking about?
Well, I will, without any hesitation, tell you it's the Patriotic Alliance, the Action SA, who have been calling and for people who are migrants not to, and blaming them for the overwhelming of our hospitals and so forth. But we already have a broken system that is there, that is not servicing even the South Africans themselves. So it is unfortunate that people who are raising genuine grievances like Operation Ndudula are used by other people who are politicians who are actually wanting to advance. I mean, xenophobia happens every time when we are coming close to elections, and these have interest, and they've always come out and being against migrants who are in South Africa.
Yeah, but I'm trying to just draw the straight line between them and Operation Ndudula. Are they sponsoring the work that Operation Ndudula is doing, Action SA and the PA?
Well, I wouldn't go into that, but I believe the way they speak, Operation Ndudula speaks, and how Action SA speaks, it seems like there is some sort of discussions behind closed doors that we are don't know about. So I don't want to come out and make such allegations about these political parties.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get to the heart of it. That's why I wanted to get to the heart of it, Thapelo, because we've got to be very specific and very precise. If we're making these links, we've got to say we assume rather than saying definitely these are the people behind the scenes that are supporting, especially in this sort of highly incendiary environment. Omhle, I want to go back to you, and I heard you, agreeing with Thapelo in talking when he said that the anger seems to be misdirected. The issue isn't the issues that are being raised by Operation Ndudula, March on March. It's the targets that has to be more refined or well selected. It's not the healthcare workers in the front line. It's not the people arriving for healthcare, but it's the fact that around the systemic issues. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I will tell you this, Iman. South Africa has 27 protests daily, and most of these protests are about service delivery. Our country has a huge issue around institutionalized corruption, and it's something that we are not addressing urgently enough. There is no way that migrants in our country, be them documented or not documented, are overburdening our systems. What is overburdening our systems all over the country is a lack of care from our government, its neglect of its people, but it's also the corruption culture that persists so much and that is not being addressed. And this is because there aren't any consequences for politicians in our country. We have state capture, but none of those people have been prosecuted yet. So many people get, reprimanded of their corruption, municipal managers, local councillors, but still there are no concrete consequences for these people. Therefore, what we've checked as the right to protest is that most of the protests that are happening in this country, and when people go to the extremes, it's out of frustration. It's really out of frustration. And that's a case that we are seeing right now. As Thapelo has said, some of it does have disingenuous, intent of political parties and politicians using frustrations of people to get through to their political agendas. But some of it is really just frustrations coming from people who have genuine cries about their services in their communities, the services that, their children are getting, the elderly are not getting as well. So it's really just genuine frustrations of South Africans, but that are misdirected. And governments should take accountability for these frustrations should come down to the ground and hear people out when they are speaking and when they are complaining about certain things, and should be, take people's cries very urgently in ensuring that they fix the healthcare system, they fix our schooling systems, they fix food insecurity in our country. Yeah.
And I mentioned at the beginning, we're seeing protests as well, or support marches around the country for Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner. I want to say, though, Thapelo, as we close, you did say that there was a conversation between yourselves and the leadership of Operation Ndudula. And, my question is, with organizations like Right to Protest, Operation Ndudula, March on March, yourselves as Abahlali baseMjondolo, who has been doing historical work, really, for the rights of people who are unhoused, and for dignity for communities that are underrepresented. Is there the opportunity or the possibility to come together? Strong voices, people who have certainly a support base. Wouldn't you be more effective if everyone tried to work together, or is that just, aspirational and really impractical?
Yes, I think the real national dialogue will be in this country when those who have their plight, who are poor and marginalized, who are coming from shack settlements, who are unemployed, who live under extreme poverty. Here in South Africa, we have 11,000 children who are dying of malnutrition every year. So I think we need to have a dialogue amongst ourselves. That's why we are saying that March for March and Operation Ndudula have real grievances, but these are misdirected. And it so often happens that whenever people are angry, that the vulnerable becomes the victims of such. In this particular case, the migrants who are also coming to seek better opportunities in South Africa and in the cities in South Africa are actually the targets in this particular case. And we are saying, therefore, we need to have a dialogue and redirect our anger at the right place. And that anger should be directed to the government of the day, the lack of the political will to address the issues that we are facing in our country. And that can only happen if we have this dialogue amongst ourselves as organizations that represent the poor and marginalized on a daily basis.
All right. Well, we're out of time. Well, Thapelo, thank you, and I'm sorry to interject there. We are out of time, but as you say, it's worth future conversations as people get frustrated for a lack of service delivery where they are. They need a voice and they need that accountability from government to alleviate their plight and actually do what they've been voted into position to do. That was Omhle Ntshingila and Thapelo Mohapi from Right to Protest and Abahlali baseMjondolo.